All right, everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking at Text Talks Battletech. This is going to be the Battle of Tukayyid, Part 2, because the first time around, we got some very interesting setup, and I was kind of wondering why they didn't drop rocks. And then just a few hundred people in the comments immediately told me it's because the clans could also do that, and they weren't because of honor, which is exactly what was being taken advantage of in the Battle of Tukayyid. And if anyone dropped rocks, while they would take out all of the clan's basic best fighters and best strategists, you don't need to be a good strategist to start throwing rocks. So the dumbasses who take over, while I'm sure a lot of them would self-destruct in very, very violent ways that would probably take out a lot of systems, at least a few of them would probably realize, hey, they threw rock at us. Us throw rock back. I don't have a very good opinion of the clans outside of Wolf and Ghost Bear. I'm not going to explain Ghost Bear because I think anyone who realizes some of the funny stories about them are really cool. Otherwise, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Make sure to hit up. When you're done, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If I'm right, we're actually going to hit 60,000 today. So, yeah, kind of hyped right now. So let's just jump into it. And right off the bat, we have Clan Jade Falcons. Hump tulips, lol, oh la la. I can't, I'm actually disappointed myself for missing text dropped in that the Jade Falcons can go hump tulips. I feel like my lack of sass notification on the last episode is honestly something I should feel bad about. And I do. I'm not going to live that one down because I won't let myself. Yeah.
That unfolded was apocalyptic.
Let's get to the apocalypse then. I'm wondering, how big are their generic weapons on
The planet-wide
ground?
battle lasted from the 1st of May to the 20th. For 20 days, the fate of the Inner Sphere was held in the balance as a telecom
Wait, that's
company
ComGuard?
fought invaders from beyond the
Interesting logo.
sphere. And how they did it...
Wait. What did that say? Ready, creditory to fucko. Oh my god, is that really... You know what? I'm just going to say nice and leave that one at that. Whoever came up with the faux Latin down here, unless it's actually their slogan. You know what? For my peace of mind, I'm just going to say it's probably someone just dicking around. Like, the Jade Falcons actually be sent to hump tulips. And I'm assuming that's not actually where they were sent. Any other franchise, I would immediately say it's a stupid joke. And in this one, I am as well. But there's that bit of my mind in the back going, they make a lot of weird references to things here for anachronistic means in universe, but for just jokes outside of universe. Like all the callbacks to all the different corporations. And, oh, hey, yeah, they bought planets because of course they would. I can't say that, and these are not actual things. I don't know enough to say for sure it's not at least somewhere, some way in the last couple decades been used to actually describe them. I'm assuming it's a joke. I'm going to continue. Just tell me it's a joke. Everyone in the chat, lie and tell me it's a joke. Thank you.
Company fought invaders from beyond the sphere.
It's a very small sphere, although a huge sphere
really
too.
Something else. ComStar may be a lot of things, crazy, duplicitous, deceptive, all-knowing, quasi-religious fanatics, but they had very little practical experience in warfare. In fact, prior to this point, ComStar more or less had to eliminate problems using the old Soviet method. ComStar was...
Okay, so let's just go back a second. Did they just... Yeah, no. When he says the Soviet method, I'm assuming he means assassination and political subversion. Yes, but the Soviet method had a few others. The first and easiest, considering it looks like a guy with a black hand on a black coat on a very, very black gun without any fingerprints. Seriously, with that matte finish, you see fingerprints really easy. I'm actually more surprised. That's actually very... That's quite nice. But more importantly, that's not the only way the Soviets took care of problems. The other way, and honestly by per capita more common way, was just rounding up people in a massive group and putting them in gulags, where they were essentially asked to die by working on menial things that they kind of want to get done, but not enough to actually want to do it. So it's like, here's some shit work that we kind of are okay with you doing. If you die, that's all right. In fact, we kind of prefer it. But if you get this done in the process, thanks. Also, please die after that. Am I oversimplifying that to an extreme extent? Just a bit. But really, the Soviet method wasn't always murder. It just usually involved murder. And torture, and mass executions, and rounding up of political dissidents, or people you thought might become dissidents, or religious dissidents, or people who just didn't agree with you, or who you just had a bad day and happened to witness it. There was a lot of disappearances, and all of it wasn't actually murder. It was just rounding people up and moving them to Siberia. A lot of it was also still murder. But there's more than one. I mean, assuming, but also... I know he's referencing murder, espionage, spies, the more James Bond aspect, but more the killy parts and less the rest of the movies that are actually really damn cool. Personal opinion. But there is a lot more to it. And from what I've heard, maybe that's not wrong, because Tex has mentioned ComStar has a background in, how to put it, fucking people over massively for entire planets or corporations or groups if they decide to get things that ComStar's like, we want that, you don't get that. No. So I'm not entirely sure if that's all he's referring to, but it kind of looks like it might be right in both ways. I'm not even sure that's intentional, but it's kind of cool that happened.
Using the
also, very clean
Soviet
gun,
method.
seriously.
ComStar was, beneath everything else, an information-based organization and drew on history for the direction for this battle. ComStar opted for defense in depth, also known as an elastic defense, also known as a castle defense, or in the modern era as a hippity-hoppity get-off-my-property, and pulled out all stops by...
Okay, elastic and castle defenses, unless I'm very much wrong about the terms, which is me, so it's entirely likely, those are very two different things. Not just two different things, very two different. Because by the logic of word, adding very to something makes it stronger. Double plus strong even. And for the guy who gets that reference, I am so sorry. But a castle defense is usually a static position where you just bunker down and try not to die. An elastic position is where you have more leeway in what you're allowed to do. So you're still defending, but where it breaks, you pull back so you reserve your forces. They're very different. Or maybe I'm just using different sources than him, and in universe for Battletech, that's something different. I mean, I guess considering, you know, the mechs are essentially castles in their own right, and they move. The castle doctrine could technically be considered much more elastic, because if you consider the castle the mech, it does actually move. I think I'm going through way too many mental gymnastics here, but in general, for non-moving defensive points, it doesn't match. But I guess if the mechs are making the defensive line rather than the terrain and the fortifications, maybe it wouldn't be the case. Huh. Still an interesting way that words can change based on context. Even if I'm wrong, especially if I'm wrong. Definitely I'm wrong.
Rapid, unending hit-and-run engagements against the invaders. The defense was dependent on hitting the clanners at every opportunity, ambushing them, then retreating, hitting and fading.
Revolutionary War tactics.
Them to the breaking
and
point
most terroristic
all the while.
Tactics and most guerrilla fire tactics.
Clanners had the advantage in mobility
Asymmetrical warfare
and
is a
equipment.
bitch.
Double heat sinks negate a lot of heat, so the inner sphere had to push them all that much harder. And as soon as the clanners mustered a counterattack, the inner sphere would fade away, leading to the next defensive point, and then engage again. So every time the clanners paused to think, they dropped artillery and airstrikes on their head. Every time they paused to survey a path, they were...
Oh, I see what they mean. They mean... Okay. I thought they meant castle defense as the sturdy main castle itself, not the overarching levels of protections prior to reaching the actual final castle fortification. Okay, that actually makes sense. For anyone wondering what I'm talking about, because I seem like I'm talking my ass, one, yes, obviously. Two, the basic strategy around castles was that you have the building itself, which was the wall, and then the interior brought around it. It's basically a fort with taller walls that the monarch or the ruler of the area would live in. They became castles into palaces later on when, you know, there was less people actually needing them for defense. So they're kind of synonymous between a castle and a palace at this point. But originally they were just big forts that you could, drop back to hide. So you can bring your people, your livestock, and your resources in there. And it still reasonably works well on the inside. So sometimes there'd even be small arable land for livestock, never enough for farming. But you can actually bring the animals in along with the people. What he's referring to as the castle defense isn't that final bastion, that little hidey hole where you can be protected from a sieging army. He's referring to layers of walls outside of it so that when one wall is breached, you can fall back to the next and have another defensive position prepared. This is also part of it, but it's not usually how that is referenced, at least in the usages I've seen so far. So he's referring to the overall lapping protections prior to reaching the castle, and that's what he's referring to as a castle doctrine. And what he's defending right now, or describing the defense of, is using various defensive points. So instead of having walls, they're going to areas where they want to engage, doing what they can to get a couple hits in and going back to get the F out because they're bleeding the enemy without taking as few casualties as possible. And that's not me misspeaking. That's realizing that they're going to take mass casualties as few as possible is not going to happen. Technically by default, considering the numbers are right against them and they're doing asymmetrical warfare, minimal casualties is any casualties. Yeah. Also, I need to turn that light on. Yeah, we're just going to ignore that I forgot to turn one of my recording lights on. It's a bright day. I'm just going to forgive myself for missing that like an idiot that I am.
Were hit by marauding scout vehicles, mechs, VTOLs, aerospace assets, or even more artillery. Sometimes ComStar would let clan or scout vehicles pass the main body and then snap to ambush the main column advance,
completely a viable
scouts
tactic.
Off and surprising the hell out of everyone.
Okay, also that part you just mentioned right there. That's actually a tactic that was used a lot during the Revolutionary War in America because advanced scouts usually warn the main body that's moving what's going on. So if you just don't touch them and they don't notice you, their job is by far useless. I mean, usually they get people who are pretty good at that. But if you're not expecting your enemy to even know to do that, which, as it has been proven, ComStar was expecting an idiot general. So good tactics are definitely not that they were expecting. Also, the rest of the inner sphere basically proved that they had a valid point, but we're going to ignore that.
Paired defenses allowed ComStar to achieve a spectacular success in defense in depth. All battle preparations were for rapid redeployment of forces, reconsolidation of damaged units, and hardened defensive points to force clanners to battle. Even the ground was prepared in advance for this bloodbath.
Makes sense. I mean, if you knew the
every
plan,
bridge was rigged to blow or set to sabotage. Concealed bunkers along every attack route provided excellent firing points and served as effective anchors for defense in depth.
Yeah.
Entire cities were completely covered into elaborate kill zones. Every access corridor was a trap. Every road was a potential minefield. Every field of planted grain potentially sown with explosives.
Hell, even modern warfare when you're in a city fights this way.
Systems. Clanners had to worry that behind every blade of grass was a rifle barrel, a bayonet, a missile, a tank, an artillery piece, or a mech. ComStar had prepared the planet into an enormous killing field, and when the battle commenced, the Com Guards hit them like a vengeful god.
I just want to point out right now what he's describing, this verm of asymmetrical warfare, which I should probably mention what I mean by that. When one side is vastly superior to the other, not nearly as accurate here as every other time against the inner sphere so far, apparently. But while ComStar has a lot of advantages, they're not at the level. They're better than everyone else on their side-ish. Side is relative, even I know that. But what they're talking about here, all these ambushes, all these setups, all this detail on this is going to be a hellhole for you because we've made sure to prepare so everything will kill you. That's not actually too crazy or in-depth. It's hard to pull off, but almost any form of asymmetrical warfare from the American-Vietnamese War basically was fought like that up until the recent Afghanistan and Iraq wars. It's how most insurgencies works. I know I mentioned all that, but in depth, what he's describing is actually how you do a guerrilla combat. Oh, wow. English major in me is just dying a bit right now. But still, that's just good tactic. And it's a very old tactic. It's basically setting things up so that enemies not just are bled, not just take damage, but they're on hyper alert, which I normally would say would wear someone down and make them more likely to make a mistake. And I could fully see that happening because this took 20 days. But normally, it's really hard to be always on the ball, always ready, always prepared. There's always that joke of like, always be prepared. Hypervigilance. But the thing is, the human mind just isn't good at that. We can do it for little bits, but stress, while it's one hell of a drug, and that is actually how it works in your brain, it does make you hyper aware of things, it does tire you out. It has a lot of effects. And prolonged stress is a tactic in its own right. It's more additional to the fact that they actually want to kill them, but it has an additional effect of really helping the Calm Guard in this effect. Now, that would also be mitigated by the fact that I'm assuming a lot of these pilots here are so used to the situation, the level of stress wouldn't affect them nearly as much. On the other hand, 20 days of needing that kind of stress response is going to take a toll, no matter how well prepared for it they are. Unless they're going space magic. Stress does not affect us. No, that's stupid. I'm going to ignore that. It sounds cool in some fiction. This would not be mostly because they have a very realistic base, minus the fact that there's a literal giant chicken walker right in front of me. Other than that, though, it's very realistic, honestly enough, at least in motivations of human people. I've been told that's most people, except for one thing that the fan community is somewhat debating if they acknowledge or not. Yeah, I still don't know much about that one.
And how did the clan manage in the face of all this?
Probably pretty well.
Let me tell you a story. When Clan Smoke Jaguar hit the planet, they landed with 2 full galaxies of units. This is the equivalent of several brigades of power armor-wearing, nightmare-fuel-drinking, eugenics-born stormtroopers, psychotic mech pilots devoid of all human emotion but hate and pride, and the leadership needed to drive these tools into the heart of the enemy with zero hesitation. And ComStar completely ruined them by exploiting terrain, prepared defensive positions, and in one spectacular instance, getting them to advance through a seemingly undefended pass, only to spring an ambush and turn it into a shooting gallery. ComStar fighting Smoke Jaguar was like the Harlem Globetrotters versus third graders.
Is it bad that the idea of watching the Harlem Globetrotters play third graders actually sounds really fun? I mean, let's be honest. Harlem Globetrotters are a team that's got a reputation for being very performance-based. And I think they would put on one hell of a show. It'd be like a really cutesy kid show. And I think that would actually be really fun. And I'd watch that. I don't really get into basketball, baseball, soccer, football. Things that require physical activity, which I'm sure no one is absolutely surprised about in the slightest. But I think it'd be really cute. It's like, aw, he blocked the ball because the kid ran up his back with a little help. Aw, that's adorable. Aw. It feels like it would actually be a really good one. I mean, I think, it would obviously be a sham and a show, but it would be a really fun show. But that's just me. More importantly, okay, I was kind of wondering how they would play it off with just being able to use really good tactical advantages. Like literally walking into a trap would normally affect someone. And apparently, no, Battletech is playing this straight. And the Smoke Jaguar, I guess they got smoked. Oh, wow. I feel like I lost points for doing that. Not enough that I won't leave that in, but I lost a few. But in all seriousness, though, yeah, just the actual pass one, that's literally just a superior force in a contained location where you have the high ground and the benefit of cover, and you can literally just drop rocks on them. Not even for more, but I mean like literal boulders off the edge at that point. I'm assuming it's a really steep pass, but it could also just be like a valley, in which case rolling rocks. Actually, now that I think about it, rolling rocks with a sufficient mass is probably a very good way to take out most mechs, considering they're bipedal. Huh. I mean, it'd be almost impossible to set up, but I'm wondering if they just have a giant catapult that throws rocks at mechs. Like at medium range, so they just knock out the feet. That's so stupid, I could see someone actually trying it.
When Smoke Jaguar gave up and left the planet, with full material losses calculated in, they lost all but 22% of their equipment.
Damn!
32% of their total committed forces were killed outright. More were horrifically mangled and damaged beyond
which is way worse than actually being killed, because it takes resources to keep someone who can't fight alive.
Fighting, thinking that they had almost annihilated their enemies, because who could stand against them? They were Smoke Jaguar. They were
Apparently
going to get
ComStar.
one more attack,
When they
one
had the
more
entire
stand,
planet.
one more battle, over and over and over again, because they believed they were on the verge of victory. And every time ComStar would hit...
Oh, so what he's describing right now is they literally tricked Smoke Jaguar into the sunk cost fallacy. It wasn't that they were going to win. It's that they thought, well, we've already put so much in and we're so close to winning, so let's just put a little more in. Followed by, let's just put a little more in. Followed by, let's just put a little more in. And like every single person who believes in the sunk cost fallacy, that their luck is going to turn, especially in something that's rigged against you. I'm not looking at you. Every single person with a gambling addiction or gotcha addiction. I'm definitely not judging myself for being a FFGO fan for so long, but yeah. No. Wow, that got oddly personal. Still though, that's actually brilliant that they set up in such a way that even though it was continual ambushes and continual control of the battlefield, and I don't just mean that they were defending it well, it's been very established by text. They controlled the battlefield. It was an open trap that they walked into for honor, for viable reason, but still honor. And they somehow managed to convince the entire clan of Smoke Jaguar that they were going to win up until it was obvious they weren't, and maybe a little past that. That's actually impressive.
them all the harder. Smoke Jaguar could not conceive of an enemy that could stand up to their might.
Inconceivable.
Well, ComStar did. And succeeded.
Yeah.
And they didn't stop there.
Funny
When
thing
Clan
about
Novacat
inconceivable
decided
problems.
to land troops and equipment using a spectacular demonstration of the incredibly effective hover drop maneuver,
What?
showing off their elite skill before their enemies on the field of battle, ComStar decided enough was enough and ruined their air show. How? ComStar
Weapons?
blitzed aerospace assets in, attacked and kamikaze the drop ships.
Oh.
In an instant, Nova Cat lost Alpha Galaxy's command ship, and the rest were immediately grounded. In this confusion, ComStar gained air superiority, and guess how that went?
Okay, so this is actually something I was wondering. Like, taking out the command ship was something I was thinking about dropping a rock on the planet to do. I did not think of straight up kamikaze attacks, which I guess would still fall within the bounds of honor because it's a person still doing it instead of literally just throwing rocks. And it's not a planet killing weapon. It's a I'm going to crash weapon. Very valid. I have some issues with the tactic because it's only really viable when you're literally out of weapons, you're out of ammo, you have no way to return, and you're just basically getting a last hurrah rather than being taken as a prisoner. And even then, being taken as a prisoner, if you're not tortured and you don't have any information to give, is a drain on your enemy's resources and takes advantage of honor. So that's not always bad. On the other hand, I have no idea how they would treat prisoners, so it's sometimes not worth it. Yeah, it really depends on, okay, how bad is it going to be? Make the decision then. Kamikaze attacks, though, are always... If you can get someone back, it's usually better to have a skilled pilot with a viable bit of gear than the advantage of taking someone down. The exception being when you can take out an asset like a freaking command ship. That's the reason these tactics aren't just laughed at, because while they're usually drastically wasteful, there's always that situation where it does get returns. And taking out a command ship, neutering the entire force of all upper leadership is... For as much as Smoke Jaguar got, well, smoked. Yeah, no, these guys... they lost immediately.
They turned the landing zone into a turkey
And because they were
shoot.
showing off, too.
After the comm guards easily managed to maintain air superiority over the drop zones and shot the living bejesus out of the clanners as they tried to forge a
Air
beachhead,
superiority is still important,
leaving the
though.
Nova Cats in short supply
Kinda wondering
with
why they
extreme
don't do that more
difficulties in
instead of
maintaining
max.
any effective communication, command, and control. As it turns out, it's hard to do any of the above while getting your ass handed to you by crazy people. The comm
Oh, yeah, they
guards
still
then
have the
launched an
hoods for
all-out
pseudo-magic.
kamikaze attack while the Nova Cats were busy trying to capture ComStar Depot. Why? They were out of supplies. At a tremendous loss, Novacat was pushed off the planet. Why? ComStar threw everything they had at them while they had their backs turned.
Oh, they
Of
got
their
flanked.
invasion force, 3 Novacat stars survived. That's 15 mechs out of an invasion force. It was a near total wipe, and that's not the worst beating that was delivered. When Clan Diamond Shark landed,
Down to 15 people. Huh. The only reason this makes sense to me is because they probably had a good idea of where they were all landing in advance, so they can prepare the terrain accordingly, which honestly makes sense because, you know, they're ComStar. The one thing I would expect them to do better than anyone else is communications, or in this case, being able to intercept. Would they? I don't know, but I'm assuming they are, so they would know where people land, so they could do things like setting up a prepared path from this landing zone to knowing how to set up the battlefield. The dropship one, that's hubris being rewarded by someone taking advantage of it finally. I mean, the Kamikaze is insane, but still. I mentioned earlier, it doesn't make sense for mechs that are mid to close range to not have really good back armor because they're going to be flanked. Long range, no. I mean, if someone's getting close to a long range unit, close enough to take advantage of weaker back armor, you're already well fucked. But that's the thing. A lot of the clans seem to be playing at mid to close range. So it's kind of nice. And it's like, hey, yeah, being flanked sucks. It's just a little bit of justification for myself. Is it good or worthwhile? No, but I'm going to take it.
they had an army. When they left, it was gone. A memory. An entire invasion force relegated to the past tense. Later,
and it's some of the best pilots too, so an immediate loss of overall skill for the entire clan.
Their attack to such a point that they ran out of ammunition, until they ran into 321st and 401st Com Guards, who had plenty, and decided to share it with them at gunpoint. Steel Viper lost so hard their Khan resigned. And on and on
they can
and
do
on
that?
it went. Every time a clan or commander tried to back down, a ComStar commander would issue a challenge to get them to do stupid things.
Oh my god, really? I was actually going to say something about how I'm surprised a Khan resigning, the leader of the clan actually being allowed to resign. I assumed that was like, oh yeah, he's going to go kill himself for honor. Actually, resigning seems way more shameful, and I was going to make a joke about how that's never going to happen, but in context with the scale of loss, it might be an intentional dishonor because they fucked up and they knew they fucked up, and they're not even going to take the honorable way out of killing themselves because they don't think they deserve it at that point, which in an honor-based society is probably way more metal and terrifying. Like literally to the other people around them, it's like, I failed so hard. I am denying myself the honor of an honorable death. That is how bad it gets. Is that the actual case? I have no idea, but I can actually see a rationale for that being the case. And then Tex just mentioned that while they are getting their asses kicked, the smart leaders who are trying to pull back and just get the F out and maybe reconsolidate, make a second attack, are still listening to challenges. So much of clan psychology is literally honor-based. And that's not usually an issue for them because overwhelming power gives you a lot more options on how you do things. It's the reason in comics Superman can get away with being the Boy Scout, that he can save a ton of people and never kill his enemies, because a lot of the time, he's Superman. He can do that because he has so much power, he can hold back. That's because the rationale of mercy, the more modern term of mercy rather than the previous and more traditional sense, for anyone wondering, traditional mercy is a swift death. That's actually what mercy means. That's why the weapon of Misericordia is just a weapon to kill people on the battlefield who were not going to survive anyway and would just suffer in agony. That is what mercy originally was. The current one is being nice to people and trying to help out, being a merciful soul. As opposed to, well, you're fucked. Whoosh, dead. Yeah, there's a bit of a change there. Here, though, they're They're in a position where there is no way they should be playing by honor because honor is failing them, but they're also so ground into it that I could see why it makes sense they would take these challenges. And because they're basically picking off the people who, given time, would probably be able to correct some of their own problems and not fall victim to the honor trap again. Because they're not at that point yet, and ComGuard's picking them off, which is probably more valuable than the battle itself. Because having good people is really valuable. Because you can put any dumbass in a mech with neural connections and as much training as the clan has, and they're going to do pretty damn well, which is why the clan did pretty damn well. But dear God, their level of general greatness is limited to some people who are honestly very amazing. And it's been explained to me, how do I put this? The level of greatness versus the level of standard troops in the clan is closer. There is just general level badassery across the board in the clan, to the point where they steamrolled everyone with better troops, better soldiers, and better mechs, and better everything on a general basis, so they're going to usually win. They also played to their advantage of blitzkrieg and never really holding the terrain. They just went in, they won, they moved on, without too much of a backdoor force to try and guard their back because they couldn't know when to spread them out. Where the IS, or the inner sphere, was the exact opposite, where they were spread so goddamn thin, even though they had a massive numerical superiority, to the point where if they ever concentrated, I mean, it doesn't matter how good your mech is. When there are so many bullets that they could block out the sky with sheer volume alone, it doesn't matter how good your mech is if there's nothing left but bullets hitting you constantly and other esoteric bullets like devices. That's never going to happen though, because they're way too spread out. And here, you also see the problem with the guard. Because clan is so generally high, their troop leaders, with a few exceptions, are also great, but it's badass on a level that's relative, as opposed to the IS, where it's generally just, okay, fine, give him a gun and hope he hits. I'm exaggerating, even I know that, but it does seem to be that way. To the people who are amazing, who are literally doing this battle right now, from what I've been told, where they can take a superior force and tear it to ribbons with just being a damn badass in planning. Really does show that for all the great ability of the individual mech warriors and people who would pilot these things, would it be driver pilot? I don't know. The ability to plan well is way more important here. Almost every big swing in a battle has always been about someone understanding good usage of tactics and just exploiting them against an enemy who didn't. Which is, I mean, completely normal, and that's usually how big swing battles happen. Someone has a better tactic, or they're very well prepared in advance. Yeah, it's just shocking to me, that's all, because I don't even think these are tactical mistakes. Well, I mean, they are mistakes, but it's believable rationale for why these people are being picked off in such a way as to overall diminish the force, and it just makes sense. Because they came here for honor, they had a reasonable expectation to win for honor, and now they're getting their ass kicked for honor. It makes sense. It really does.
Then ComStar would be waiting there with enough forces to jump on them like amphetamine-soaked circus monkeys. The clanners were unprepared for a war like this.
Oddly specific reference.
This was not a war they had ever fought before. And thanks to ComStar's success,
blitzkrieg, so
it was not a war they would ever fight again.
Really? I'm pretty sure a lot of them
didn't falter.
I guess Wolf was.
They knew the cost of this. They bulldozed the corpses of their fallen comrades out of the way and kept attacking. When a clanner unit was spotted, something was flying at it. Artillery, rockets, missiles, aerospace assets, VTOLs, tanks, infantry, whatever was at hand was put on that problem until it stopped. ComStar ground its own forces down on the clans, knowing that no matter how fancy their crap was, you could still die if you tried hard enough. And in the end, the clans lost. Only Clan Wolf managed to achieve its stated objectives. Ghost Bear and Jade Falcon took a draw.
Oh, hey, Ghost Bear won. Jade Falcon drew? Because I'll be honest, with how Tex was talking about it, that did not sound like a draw. That sounded like a win. That sounded like a significant win for the IS, not Jade Falcon. Like, he did mention that they were the dropship ones, right? Unless maybe that was someone else. Clan Wolf, mission accomplished. Gareth, Radic, KIA. Apparently he's one of the main characters from a novel series, I think. I could be mistaken. Ghost Bear, I don't actually know what happened to that, I forgot. Jade Falcon, the way text described it, though, it sounded more like they got their asses kicked. Or is Draw just not
Every
going
single
gone?
other clan
Like
flatly
everywhere else.
lost. And not just lost.
Oh, no, Ghost Checker's what I'm thinking of.
Some were eradicated in all but name.
Okay, so there's one thing that's bothering me out of all this. And yeah, I'm going to cut this one here because I'm just having such fun. I want to spread this out and just really enjoy the great play-by-play that we're getting from Tex. But the one thing I'm not getting is the objective systems. Considering they're doing this almost as a first to the hill wins, kind of like what they're doing with getting to Earth in general, is the one who gets there is the one who basically wins, as has been explained to me at least. What were the objectives even worth doing if only one of them mattered? And this is one of the things I don't get about the clan's plan. Entirely possible because maybe I just haven't looked at it right or missed the comments that explained it. Because people are really great about telling me exactly what I need to know if I have the time to read the comments. I try. I'm also an idiot though, so sometimes understanding it is a little... We're going to ignore that. Just how is that working? Like, what were the objectives? What were they trying to do? Like, I know they're trying to control the planet by the end of it and win and take the points from ComStar, but it just seems that if only half of them succeeded, oh, no, wait, I just got my own question. I was going to ask, what was the purpose? Porpoise? Yes, what was the purpose of doing this thing? I cannot speak today. What was the point of doing this? But then I was like, oh yeah, no, wait, it was literally battle of capture the flag, essentially. I'm oversimplifying it, even I realize that, but it's close enough. So, yeah, Clan Wolf got theirs, but every other clan failed. And that was the point. It wasn't that the objective mattered, it's that they got to it, because if enough of them had, they would have got the planet, and ComStar would have just said, yep, fuck it, we're done, you're good, you win. And they never considered the fact that they could fail, which is why the objective doesn't really matter, because they just assumed they would have it. That's the point of the objectives. It was literally just giving them something to fight for that absolutely didn't matter. And that's how you could draw, even though realistically in the battle you lost, because you had at least got to the objective probably. Because the objective was a MacGuffin. It counts for victory, loss, or draw, but it doesn't actually count for anything. That makes more sense then. Yeah. Still though, this is cool. I really hope text goes into more like of the aftermath, which I'm pretty sure is what's coming next, but also exactly why Wolf succeeded. I know there has to be more because I know people love Wolf. Like literally my main Discord channel, the one people join on, is filled with people right now just fanboying over Wolf. And yes, Vic, I am referencing you. Which honestly, yeah, the Wolf sounds pretty damn cool. Especially starting the Star League up again. Hopefully, and I haven't gone too much in the Dark Ages yet, hopefully without the entire, this is a horrible system and we know it's going to collapse until we decide leaving is better. Hopefully without that aspect. Yeah. Still though, I like this. I'm having so much fun. And I just love that Tex is doing this. I have found a place that does sell Battletech and Mechwarrior stuff. They just don't have any in stock right now. They have all the stuff like on the walls, like, hey, we sell this here. We don't have it right now because we're out of stock. I know people are giving me links on Amazon and eBay to some really great sets. I just kind of like going to local game shops in person and buying it there to support them more. I'm weird that way. Also, because if I do it, maybe I can find someone I can play against locally. I actually know a few guys, but it's just far enough where it's not really... Driving an hour is annoying. But that's more my own BS. All the same, for everyone watching, thanks. I checked, we are so damn close to 60,000. There's a chance we passed it during the recording of this video. So I'm kind of excited. For everyone watching, thank you. For everyone who subscribed, thank you even more. And again, there's a link below to the original video from Tex. Hit it up. The Black Pants Leech. I cannot say that name. And for everyone wondering why I never reference this channel name, it's because I can never say it correctly. Even worse than Alpha Boost. Oh, now I can say it now that I'm not recording his videos anymore because I finished them all. Hi everyone, welcome to Airier Games, where I fuck up words I know very well. How's that for a channel intro? All the same. Thanks for watching everyone, I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.